Hello and welcome again to the Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, and if you missed yesterday's program, you need to go back and check it out at wjmm.com. Click on the podcast page in the upper right, and then go to the Love and Lordship links. You'll find today's and the previous 2 days. They keep them running about 3 days at a time there on that site. You can also find this at the Vimeo page, a video of it at Love and Lordship. /vimeo.com and on the Podbean page, Love and Lordship /podbean.com. And I think Vimeo might be the opposite. Maybe vimeo.com /Love and Lordship. So you can try all those. You may just be able to find it with Love and Lordship, but I hope you can. And leave us a note. Let me know what you're thinking. Love to engage with you. And with that said, I welcome back Mr. Scott Collins to hear more about how the Lord has turned his life around and using him. He mentioned yesterday that high school, he probably wasn't quite walking with the Lord, right? Is that fair, Scott?
Understatement.
Okay, welcome again, and thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Now, even though you've been successful in business and church ministry, faithful husband, father, now grandfather, right? How many times? Four grandchildren.
Yeah.
Man, we're almost the same age, and I'm still waiting on my first. So, man,
I can lend you a couple.
Yeah. My dad said when my first child was born, my first son, he said, "Man, if I'd known grandparenting was this great, I'd just skip the parenting." I said, "Dad, you taught me a lot of things I'm going to share with you. I don't think it works that way, right?"
No.
He knew that, of course, but he was just having some fun. So tell me, you got another love, and we're going to come back, as we said yesterday, to marriage and family, because it's so important in God's design and order. But you have another love, and we talked a little about it, music, a great passion of yours. You've written some musicals. You've written a lot of music. Talk about that, man. Here's your opportunity, man.
Well, so, I grew up in a family that my father was a very good piano player and a lot of singing in the home. My mother is a good singer and church choir, the whole thing. The friends would come over for quartet singing, guitars around the back porch, just
hard to get away from.
Immersed in all of it,
Yeah.
and it just like a disease. It caught me, and I became in love with this thing called music, and it's been special. It's been a great outlet to use that in whatever way God tells me to or leads me to, and I love the creative process.
Yes.
So
you do. I can see that over and over again. Talk
Uh,
about some of the things. I know you had a Benny Snell.
Yeah.
Who's playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That when you came, our Central Kentucky fans, we mentioned some things like Lafayette and Jesse Clark and some of those things. Our Central Kentucky people probably know those. Some of our state and others in podcasts may not, but those are all Lexington, Central Kentucky. So talk about the Benny Snell song.
Yeah. Well, I've done quite a few UK songs for basketball and football. And
Yes.
they're all on YouTube. They're not great, but they were great fun.
Yes.
To do, and it's just a little silly thing I do. And so I did a song called Benny and the Cats, as to the tune of Benny and the Jets.
Right. So, and it was very catchy. You should go look that one up for sure on YouTube. But Jack Patty picked that up, right?
Yeah.
And you were on his. You've been on his show. If you think you've reached the pinnacle now, you're on the Authority of Love show.
I know. Does it get any better?
Exactly. No, but so Jack Patty, that one, and then you've done many others you alluded to, but one that I really love, and you've asked me to be just a really small part of it, and I love it, whether I did or not. But talk about the Hank Williams musical.
So, as I was saying, my father played guitar and piano, and he really played a lot of the old school country stuff growing up. And so I really loved that old vibe of blue yodel sound of Hank Williams. And so...
You do it really well, too, by the
Well,
way.
thank you. I'm a little too hefty for Hank, but I squeeze it in pretty good.
Yes.
And a lot older because he died at 29.
Right.
Anyway, so I wrote a song probably 6-7 years ago called "Nobody Could Hurt Like Hank," just based on reading a book of his or about him, and all the amount of seemingly bad things that happened in his life.
None of his own doing.
Well, some yes, and some no.
Total
some
sarcasm.
Yes,
Yes,
right, total sarcasm.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so his songs drip of that melancholy
Yes.
cry that blues feel, because that's what music's about. It's an outlet for happiness. It's an outlet for sadness, and it's really a great outlet. And it's been a great outlet for me when I want to say something. I see a principle, a biblical principle, or whatever, and the song comes. And so I've had several albums and written a bunch of songs. Two good ones. That was about.
No, way more than that. But yeah.
Anyway, so the song was based on that, and a friend of mine wanted to do a concert in the park in Nicholasville at Rock Fence Park. And he said, "Do you have any ideas?" I said, "Well, I wrote this song called Nobody Hurt Like Hank. Maybe we could get some friends together and just do some Hank Williams music for the folks. It'd be just a fun venue." And of course, Hank also wrote some amazing gospel songs.
Yes, yes.
I mean, and I close out the play that I wrote is called Nobody Hurt Like Hank, and I close it out with a gospel testimony of doing his gospel songs. You know, I Saw the Light.
Yes.
Many others. But anyway, I say that to say because according to one of the biographers, Hank actually came to Christ at the end of his life. And so we bring that about to basically say, use him as a bad example because of he lived his life in a lot of bad ways.
For himself a lot. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, right.
But he did, apparently, according to this biographer who gave all the dates and what happened, he did come to Christ right at the end before he died in the backseat of his Cadillac.
Yeah.
So we just give a gospel testimony about the truth and the redemption available even to somebody like Hank Williams.
Yeah, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
You mentioned yesterday, Scott, that you'd like to take, and it's not always just an old-time churchy song. And you just described it.
Yeah.
Because that's what you invited me to come watch it one time, and you'll have someone just stand up in the audience at the end and say, "Hey," because it's the concert that never was, right?
Right. So he was on his way to Canton, Ohio, to do a New Year's concert, and a huge snowstorm struck, and they had trouble getting there. So what we did is do a kind of a fantasy show as though he arrived in Canton, Ohio, to do this concert. And of course, we add a lot of comedy. We have a June Carter character, and we have a Patsy Cline character, and they're big parts of the show, and a lot of humor, old timey, fun stuff.
Yes.
It's an entertaining show, and we've loved doing it throughout Kentucky.
Right.
Hopefully we can reprise it again.
Yeah. By the way, if you're listening in your community, because I've been to 2 or 3 of them, in outdoor theater, did it once there.
Yeah.
You did it down at Marion County, where I was a basketball coach at one point. Went down there and did that. So if your community has a theater or a location where you would like to do that, contact Scott. How can they contact you to do that? Give them that. If you're, what's the best way? General email or something?
I have an email that's Jan, Jan, my wife's name, A-N-D, Jan and Scott, S-C-O-T-T, the number 1, at gmail.com. Jan and Scott 1 at gmail.com. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, we've got a lot of people itching to kind of reprise the show, and it's been when the whole COVID narrative happened, you know, everything like that shut down, so we haven't done it in quite a while, but I think we could get the rust off.
I think you could too. Yeah.
Get a fire back up.
It would be great. So that wasn't our plan in this, but it is good, and it is a gospel testimony at the end. As you said, they sing that song. Someone stands up and starts singing. They hear the message that Hank Williams has died of a heart attack, I believe, in the back of the Cadillac, so he never made it. And then someone in the audience stands up and sings, as I think they did. The folklore is that someone stood up and started singing, "I Saw the Light." And so...
And then everybody stood up and sang it.
Yeah.
It was a powerful moment.
Yeah, it really is. It really is moving. So that's his creativity. Scott does a great job with that. But let's get back to having led into that, because we do want to make this... What have you, as you've gone through all these things with it, we said yesterday, business and work and ministry... I want to focus on, and we may not get much today, so we'll carry it over to tomorrow because that was a great promo for the musical. I mean, that's okay. But what difference has this made in your life, particularly when it comes to marriage and family? Because I know that means a lot to you. May not always have because we grow in that, but
Yeah,
what has that meant to you to walk in God's covenant order when it comes to marriage and family?
Well, you're right. The order is so important because we must have God first
Yes.
and family second. You know, some people I've seen pastors put church first and God's down here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But they think they're doing it when they do that.
yeah, and they sometimes they put their family in a bad position by not realizing that as the priesthood of the home, that is their primary responsibility.
Yeah,
Yes, the church work is amazingly important,
absolutely.
but you have to have it in the right order. And so I've always tried to keep the order right because your family is your legacy, and it's who God will, your progeny that God will take out there and do great things with, or can actually defame your witness.
Exactly.
If you don't do it right.
And you said something there. Actually your legacy, your greatest. I'm going to say this. It's not in the book, but I have many things that refer to this in a similar way. Your greatest kingdom legacy is through your family, not through your church. Now that doesn't mean church not a part of it. That's why Paul said, by the way, this is a mystery. When I'm talking about a husband and wife, I'm talking about Christ and his bride.
Yeah.
So if we're not getting husband and wife right and well, we're probably not getting church done well.
Right.
And unfortunately, as I think you're saying, you've seen it happen, but I think we're seeing a lot of that today.
Yeah.
That many have compromised. And that's part of the reason that I wanted you on, because we've talked about this a lot. So how does that play out for you? How do you take, you do musicals, you do some ministry, you sing at churches and those kind of things. How does that play out for you to keep your marriage and your family first when you have all these options?
Well, I certainly sacrificed a lot of what I wanted to do earlier in my life.
Okay, right. You mean as far as
musically?
Musically, okay, right.
Because I knew that that's primary.
Yeah. And you were running a business.
Right.
That you had
The
to do that,
business,
right?
Keeping the family, certainly the church life, the discipleship, the whole thing and so I kind of postponed my musical life to a certain degree till I retired.
Yeah.
And
when you sold the business, that gave you God afforded you that opportunity, right? Okay, good.
And he's been real good to me to bless me that I can make music and people seem to like it.
Yeah, they do.
My mother
they do,
does.
brother. Yeah. Your mom and your wife.
Well, my wife.
Yeah.
But she's a very understanding of my heart language.
Yes.
And she allows me to do this a lot, and so it's been just God's blessed me, and my son is also a musician, and
yes.
he's does a lot of worship music and has traveled.
You got a grandson on the way up that you
yeah,
found a couple videos too, right?
Yeah, my grandson Elijah.
Yeah,
he's gotten the bug too, and he's got a song that
I find on.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, but I've got another one coming out that I'll tell you about when we have time.
Yeah, we've got to move on. We'll find out more about that tomorrow. So thank you for joining us. Again, invite family, friends, and enemies. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day, and God bless in Christ. Stay tuned for Bill Reeser and Encounter. I'm Greg Williams, and you're listening to The Authority of Love.